Welcome everyone to the Proven Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Church. I'm a music producer from Northeast Ohio. I began this weekly interview series to give you different perspectives from artists, producers, engineers, and other individuals in the music industry. In each episode, we touch on not only what has helped the person succeed, but we also touch on what has shaped them into the person that they are today. I hope you're able to gain some real proven knowledge from the show, and that it helps elevate you on your own journey to success as well. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 262 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today, I welcomed an artist that I've been following as a fan for the last 2 to 3 years. His name is Bellez. He hails from Pasadena, California. I actually discovered him through his project called Scot-Free that released back in 2022. That project was executive produced by Hit-Boy, Radio, and Jansport J. So that's kind of how I got familiar with him. And I checked out that album, and it actually ended up making my album of the year list for 2022. It just resonated with me so much. I love the production choices. I love the stories he told on that project. And from there, he dropped another album called Life.Death.Somewhere Between at the top of 2024, and he's gearing up now to drop another new EP and another album this year in 2025. He's already released a few singles. So I wanted to get him on the show today to learn more about him myself, but also let you guys know more about him and his music. He talked about, being involved in music from an early age, his dad owning a music store, the different artists that he was exposed to back in the day, and then how that led to him gaining a love for writing, gaining a love for production, hearing beats, writing to them, and eventually creating his own music. And he had a gap kind of from the early 2000s up until the 2020s where, he wasn't really doing music as much, kind of put it on the back burner, and he kind of gives the explanation behind that decision making, but ultimately led him to locking back in with Hit-Boy, creating Scot-Free, and he's been doing it ever since now for 5 years straight, just continuously putting out amazing material. And I'm excited to see what he does next and what these two bodies of work are really going to sound like in the second half of the year. So without further ado, let's get into this one.
You've been a familiar face since I started putting music out, so I appreciate you.
Man, I can't believe it's been, 3 years since Scot-Free, like this week,
Yep.
I think, or last week, which is wild. So, yeah, man, I think what you're doing is incredible. You're definitely one of the artists I've been checking out all your stuff, last few years. And like I said, I'm happy to have you here today. And we usually have the guests kind of just introduce themselves for those that might not know you and what you do. And how'd you get into music initially?
Yeah, man, my name is Bellez. I'm from Pasadena, California. And how I got into music, it's a long story about, my family was really into music. My dad was into music. He was, as kids, we grew up, and our family business was a music store. So my dad used to sell like CDs, tapes, and DVDs, and even laser discs back in the day. And, he was like a vendor for the city. He had a CD store on Colorado Boulevard in our city. And, a bunch of different artists back in the day used to come in and do it in stores. And I used to be like just a fly on the wall watching everything happen. Mm-hmm. I used to work in the store with them, and earn a little extra money. And that's kind of how I fell in love with music, man. Going to little shows as a kid, and just traveling with them and doing shit like that. So, yeah, that's kind of how I got into music. How I got into writing music and, actually wanting to be a musician came around like middle school for me. I was like, I was always interested in like, creative lyricism. Like I was like really listening to like a lot of East Coast rap and also West Coast rap. But, I was really into like lyricism and, catchy bars and metaphors and shit like that. So, we used to do that shit in the quads, like try to rap and freestyle. And, it even started out with reciting other shit, just famous people's raps in the quad. Like, oh man, you heard that new, you know what I'm saying? And just go in or whatever. So, yeah, that's kind of like how I fell in love with it, man.
Yeah.
And it kind of stuck with me.
That's awesome, man. And I know you're from Pasadena, which I don't think I've talked to anybody that is from Pasadena specifically. I talk to people in LA or, San Diego, somewhere like that. So, you kind of just mentioned, obviously, growing up with your father, being exclusively around music. That was obviously a big influence. Was there anything else specifically about Pasadena that you loved growing up, as when it came to the art scene and the music scene as well?
Yeah, growing up in Pasadena, like for example, like where my dad's store was, it was on a street called Colorado Boulevard, and every like New Year's and New Year's Eve, they used to do like, for every New Year's they do this annual football game, the Rose Bowl game, and they do like this Rose Parade that goes up and down the street. They have different floats and shit from different colleges and organizations, where they build these monumental floats like made out of flowers and shit, and they have like, the Navy, the Air Force, and everybody a part of it, and different schools. But New Year's Eve, they used to roll up and down. Everybody used to roll up and down the street, and they hot cars or whatever. And we was kids, so we used to like, it was like the cool thing to do, to where they would be driving by, spraying us with water guns and throwing shit at us, and we would be shooting the cars with silly string, and you know what I'm saying. So like, just moments like that, will forever live with us, man. So yeah, those were dope moments. Like, just off top, when you asked me that question, that I reflect on.
For sure. And I feel like that's because really I think the world gets to see Pasadena during that time, like New Year's Eve, New Year's, for the game and for the parade, and that's how everybody knows about it, is because of the Rose Bowl. But I feel like they don't know the side of like the locals, you know what I mean, like living there, getting to experience that day in and day out. So it's definitely
it's crazy, man. It's a lot of history out there.
Yeah, definitely a unique perspective for sure. And as far as, yourself and your journey as an artist, because like you said, you've been writing for a long time, and I know you were putting out music, even 10 plus years ago, 15 plus years ago, and it was just, within the last few years that you kind of came back to releasing music with Scot-Free in 2022. Yep. So what was kind of the gap between, those older releases till Scot-Free? What was those years kind of like, and like what did you go through to kind of get to that point of coming back and releasing music again?
So to kind of back from the beginning, as a young artist, like my uncle, he had a studio at our Pasadena house, which is now burnt down. But he had a studio where I used to go and like, record. He used to teach me how to like engineer myself and record songs. And, I was kind of, I was rough around the edges then, man. I ain't gonna lie to you, but it was another kid that went to our school, and his name was Troy Johnson, and he was a young producer. His dad was in the music business, and he had a record deal at the time. So he had a dope-ass studio on Sunset Boulevard. So, me and my boys, we used to always go to his studio. He used to open his studio up to us. And, after sessions, like he would have sessions with like Kelly Rowland and Missy Elliott, and then afterwards we'd be there after their sessions to just fuck around on the mic. And, it turned into a real thing to where like we was recording songs, making demos, and that led to running around with different fellow artists from the city. And I started a rap group with another guy back in the day. His name was AC Tatum, and we had this like neighborhood dude that wanted to start like a record company at the time, and he kind of signed us to a group deal, and we had like a group record deal. And, like that's kind of how it started. Mm-hmm. And we used to lock down the studio in the Valley. And he was like a mentor to me, on multiple levels besides the music. And one of his childhood friends happened to be Hit Boy's dad. So even back then, that's how I kind of developed my relationship with Hit Boy, because he would come through the studio with beats. And then at the time, Ty Dolla $ign used to come through with beats, and Seven Streeter used to be in the studio, and it was a wild time, to where I kind of like was introduced to a lot of my industry connects at that time. And, you know, I've been nourishing them over the years. And, you know, that's kind of how I got started. And then, you know, once that group dissolved, the investor, he kind of backed out. He started doing some other shit, you know, selling like hair, and started a trucking company. And he just kind of got off the music side because it wasn't really no money in it at the time. So, we, you know, I kind of stuck to it, man. And, you know, I started making my own music, and kind of branched off and started doing my own thing. And, you know, just put in my 10,000 hours after that, you know, just up back at my uncle's house, just recording. And then, you know, kind of, you know, that was around the time when, like, the Tekashis and all them other artists was popping. And I didn't really feel like it was a place for my artistry at the time. And I kind of, like, I don't know, I kind of fell out of love with music, right? I'm like, this shit goofy. I'm like, you gotta, you know, I'd have to forget everything I ever learned to be a part of, you know, what they were doing at the time. So, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't really raised on like the industry standard at the time. So I couldn't really vibe with it. So I kind of took a break from music, kind of figured out my personal life, my personal financials, and got into other little things here and there, and started my own businesses and shit like that. So now where I'm at, when I started Scot-Free, I was at a comfortable place to where, you know, I was able to like make the music that I wanted to for the love of it. And I was fortunate enough to tap back in with Hit Boy on that project, and also meet Jansport J on that project, and create, you know, I would consider it a street classic that'd be, you know what I'm saying, that'd be recognized more for what it actually was probably years from now.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I think Scot-Free was the first time that I really heard any of your work, and then kind of had to backtrack from there and see what you had done before. But it caught me off guard because it was such an incredibly put together project. And usually when I don't hear of someone, I'm like, I don't know what to expect. You know what I mean? So I go in and I'm like, well, I see that Hit Boy is executive producing this, obviously familiar with him. I was familiar with Jansport's work. And I listened to it. I was like, this is remarkable. This is an incredible body of work. And I like that it's only 10 songs. I like that you were able to tell such great stories in the 10-song length. And just kind of, you know, like you said, I think it's one of those albums that it's going to be something that when people discover your work, even future work, they're going to go back to that one and be like, wow, this was something. And it's interesting to hear that you put in the amount of years into making it as well, which I think is super big. And I like what you said about, you know, kind of not wanting to fit into what everybody else was doing, and realizing that you wanted to take time away and be able to invest in the music that you cared about, which I think it's something a lot of people kind of fall into, but they might take the different approach of just never coming back to music. You know what I mean? Which I think is something that it would suck to do that. You know what I mean? Because you're kind of denying your voice to the world at that point. So I think it's good to hear that you were able to come back and start releasing this music, man, because it's impacted me in a big way. I know it's impacting a lot of other people that have heard it. So I'm happy for you, man. I'm happy that you were able to go through that and come back stronger than ever and be able to put out that great body of work. So.
Yeah, no, that's dope, man. I love that too, and I appreciate that. And I feel like, you know, I don't knock nobody, man. I respect everybody's hustle and everybody that's trying to do it. I just feel like for me, you know, I wanted to, you know, I believe in what I do, and I always did. So when I stepped away from music, it wasn't because I didn't believe in what I do. I just felt like they weren't receiving what it is that I do. And I feel like now it's a safe space, especially, like, I felt like it was like God's divine timing to like link me up with somebody like Hit Boy at the time that was like really pushing the line on doing what it is, you know, like doing music that resonates with what they like or grew up to. Because I think around the time we were doing Scot-Free was like when King's Disease 1 was coming out too. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know, that it was just that moment, you know, with that him linking up with Alchemist and, you know, all them moves right there was like, okay, boom, we doing real music again.
Yeah.
So it was inspiring me at the time to, you know, put my best foot forward. And even the 10-song thing, that was it. He was like, man, 10 songs is a magic number. So, you know, I was like, all right, well, shit, we gonna do it in 10 then.
Yeah, for sure. And I can imagine being around that environment and those amazing people definitely helped out a lot. And and I think even Life.Death.Somewhere Between, the next album, was also 10 or 11 songs. So you kept it kind of the same on the next one. So what was kind of the process from going to Scot-Free to that next project? Was it kind of seamless? Like you just kept writing and kept creating songs and then eventually you had the next project? How did that go from one to the next?
So from one from the next, it was wild because when I released Scot-Free, I was doing, like, after I released Scot-Free, like, the motivation, like, and enthusiasm that I received just personally from that project and, like, the energy that I fed off of, it was crazy. And then at the same time, my life was crazy because everything else, like, you know, the people that I'm running around with, the things that I'm doing, and, you know, I was kind of, like, living in the moment. You know, I was running around in Vegas a lot, dealing with different females and dealing with different shit. So I was my approach to that album was like, keep the integrity sonically, but tell new stories, show new growth. Because what I don't want to do as an artist is tell the same story 100 times.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like a lot of artists do that. Like, you know, it's like, you don't want to be like the cocaine rapper or the you know what I'm saying, the jiggy rapper or the, you know what I'm saying, whatever rapper, you know what I'm saying? It's like, my grandpa always told me to be three-dimensional. It's like no human is just one way. So it's like I want to kind of show all the human emotions in my music and show growth, even sonically, you know, trying to choose different beats or challenge myself. I don't want to just be stuck into like the backpack rapper, even though that's my comfort zone. I love it. I could make that music all day. But it's also, I want to challenge myself to make different styles of music, different, you know, choose different beats and still maintain the integrity of who I am as an artist.
Yeah. Hey there, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick minute out to let you know about a couple different ways that you can support the podcast. One of the ways is by clicking that support the podcast button within your streaming platform. That is if you want to be a monthly supporter of the show. You can contribute either 99 cents, $5, or $10 a month. So that's the first way, and that's the more traditional way that we've had now for the last couple years. The other method that we actually just recently introduced is from our good friends over at Ko-fi. Ko-fi is a virtual tip jar. We have set our limit to a minimum of $10, but you can go make one-time, one-off donations. So if you visit ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast, you'll be able to donate. And all these different forms of donation go towards getting new guests every single week, getting potential sponsors on board to do giveaways, and overall just making the show better for you guys. So if you want to do that Ko-fi link, it's ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Otherwise, again, look for that support the podcast button in your streaming platform if you'd like to be a monthly supporter. And I just want to say thank you guys for your contributions. And without further ado, let's get back into the episode. And it shows off the level of versatility as well, which I think is super big for you, what you're showing through those first couple projects. And obviously, you've already released a few songs this year in 2025. I think my personal favorite's Winter Clothes. I really like that. It's more like a little freestyle you put out. Kind of leads me into my next question, which is, you know, what is the next big body of work that you're putting together, or maybe that you got on the horizon that you can kind of let us know about? Is it an album? Is it an EP? Like, what can we be looking out for?
Yeah, so I got a little bit of both, man. So I got a complete album done. It's untitled as of right now. And on this project, my main goal was to shine light on my city and link up with different artists from my city and incorporate them. Because like what was happening was when Big Hit came home after we dropped Life.Death, and Big Hit came home, and they did Surfer Drown 2 and Hit Boy and them. They were doing different pop-ups and shows and different functions in the city and even outside the city. And I've seen as I was invited to these events, and I've seen different artists and different people from my city that I haven't seen since we was kids. Mm-hmm. And, people that make music that are talented. So I was like, okay, my next project, what I want to do is figure out how to incorporate them, bring them to my world,
Yeah.
And that was the move and the motivation for this project. So what I did, I put together a body of work with all the artists that was on my radar that I connected with, and was like, okay, boom, I'm gonna incorporate them somehow on this project. So that's the move for this project. It's a little bit more gutter, a little bit more street. It's but it evokes every emotion, this project. And that was the motivation for this album.
Awesome.
And I also got an EP on the way too, man. The EP is gonna be a 4-song little teaser, which will be just a recap of what I'm doing throughout the year. So the EP is gonna be called 4 Seasons. So I told myself, since I got different sounds and I'm kind of straying away. So I noticed a lot of people are in love with the Scot-Free project, which is kind of like the boom bap sound. Kind of like the real hip hop lyrical side of me.
Mm-hmm.
So this body of work is different. What I'm saying? If you hear the Stall 'Em Outs or the Pardon My Frenches, you can expect a lot of that, some more of that, and just different sounds, man, that I'm fooling around with.
Yeah.
So when I did for January I did Winter Close, which is the first quarter, start of the first quarter, end of the winter, right? And then I did Spring Break, which would be the first start of spring for Spring Break. And then now I got this record. It's called Summer Rain. It will be the start of the summer. And I'm going to do one for the fall and put that as a 4-song EP called 4 Seasons.
Awesome. Well, man, I'm definitely excited for all of that. The EP sounds great, and the compilation. It's almost like a compilation for Pasadena, man, which I think is super awesome. And I'm definitely going to be excited to hear a lot of artists on there that I am not hip to. And I definitely think that's a great way to give back and give back to the people you've known for a long time as well.
Man, it's dope, man. There's so much talent out there, bro. It's crazy how much talent. Because I'm these are it's another level of talent out there, bro. From different artists that come up and do what they do. And just, it needs to be heard. Because even, you think about producers like Hit Boy, and even this producer I got named Jukebox that's been making music forever and making beats, and even the guy that mixes, engineers my records, Radio. These are all Grammy Award winning, and they're all from the city, So yeah, man, we just try to shed light and grow, man. It's a lot of that's one thing that I saw when they were throwing these functions was the unity and how many people really pop out. You know what I'm saying? I'm man, we got our own little thing, man.
Yeah.
And I'm whenever you hear people from the West Coast put music out, it's always nobody ever gives a shout out to our city.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much history with our city, and you know what I'm saying, it's kind of the bridge and the gap. So I'm that's what we trying to do, man, for sure.
100%. And I think you're always better together, lifting up one another, building that sense of community. That's such a huge thing. And Radio's dope, by the way. His beats are incredible too.
He's
I've definitely
crazy,
been
bro.
Checking out his stuff too. I've seen him work with a lot of other people as well.
And
Shout
he
out
plays
to
every fucking instrument.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. I might have to try to get him on here one day. That'd be cool. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
Yeah, for sure, man.
That'd be dope.
So next question would be, kind of leading out, even outside of music, or maybe just during the creative process of the new projects that you're working on currently. What do you think you're doing kind of on the day to day to recharge, refuel, replenish your mind, and really just kind of get things ready to go. So when it comes time to creating music, writing, recording, you feel like you're prepared, you feel like you're giving your best effort to do so. What would that be for you right now?
Well, when it comes to creating music, man, I always wait for that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I always wait for that good beat and that good feeling, man. And when the right beat and the right feeling happens, I never force it, bro. Like, I never try to force music. And I feel like, I work at my own pace. So it's like that's kind of the move, even though I've been trying to be more proactive and try to stay consistent. And it's like I told myself, boom, if I send Scot-Free, I'm going to drop at least 1 or 2 bodies of work, whether it's an EP or LP every year, but it's going to be the best that I could give.
Mm.
I'm not just going to force nothing that's going to be weak. So, you got a certain amount of months out of the year, and it usually comes in spurts where it's like, okay, boom. I think with this new project, man, I did it in like 8 weeks.
Wow.
So, it was just a constant flow. I was recording the songs, sending the stems to radio was mixing it, and we was done.
Mm.
So then I started working on, like, how am I going to market it? And, I was fortunate enough to be a part of, like, I got this dude named Mike Brown that I'm working with, and he's instrumental into, like, this marketing process for this project. And we just gonna see how it go, man.
Yeah.
I just did last week. I just did this live show with Revolt. That was pretty dope. It was like kind of like an unplugged set. I can't wait till they show it, but it's gonna show on Revolt television. It's kind of like a unplugged setup. They had the live band, so I did like 5 records with them, and that's gonna be dope. I think that's dropping this month too.
Awesome. Definitely excited for that. I saw that the Pardon My French video also, I think, debuted on Revolt, didn't it?
You said what happened?
I think the Pardon My French video also debuted on Revolt earlier this year, right?
Yeah. That did Stall 'Em Out, premiered on Revolt. They've been looking out, man. They've been showing a lot of love over there at Revolt, man.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. That's incredible. And I think that just goes to show that the real music resonates, you know what I mean? And what you're doing is really resonating with a lot of people. And like we said before, the importance of doing it at your own pace. Like you said, you want to continue to create projects and songs at your own pace. And it just comes back full circle and with opportunities like that. So I think that's awesome. Very incredible, man. And is there any timetable on the other full album, like a release date for that? Is there anything you're eyeing currently that...
So, while I don't have a release date, my goal is to get it out this summer for sure.
Awesome.
But I don't have a release date yet. But it's definitely a summer vibe. I've been gearing up. I've been dropping some once a month just to kind of create awareness, because I'm like, I don't want it to fall on deaf ears, because it's important that it's heard. And that's the move. So even after that, I got some more visuals that I got in the clip. So I'm just trying to keep that shit going, man.
Yeah.
June is gonna be an exciting month.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll definitely be on the lookout for all of it. I'm definitely excited. And we're down to the last few questions here. These are more life-related ones, and ones I ask on every episode. The first one is, if you could go back 10 years ago and give yourself any piece of advice, or maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you would do?
If I can go back 10 years, and change anything, I would have definitely stayed in school, got my diploma, got a degree. You know what I'm saying? Because you could utilize no matter what. And this is for the youngsters out there, man. And I feel like for anything that you do, it don't matter if you want to be an entertainer, a ball player, it don't matter if you want to even chase that dream or whatever. You want to be a lawyer, doctor, whatever. Now, while there is ways and there are examples of people that did it without it, it's definitely easier if you just buckle down and put in that time 4-8 years when, you know, a lot of people sit around and bullshit 4 and 8 years of their life and blink twice and they pass you by, just to go ahead and get one of them degrees and whatever it is you want to do. I feel like that's something that I would have went back and did for sure.
Yeah. A little sidebar, is that something you would consider doing like in the future? Because technically you could still do that if you wanted to. Would you ever consider doing it?
Yeah, probably, man. Yeah. Probably, for sure.
Nice. Anything, any specific major or anything, or you just kind of want to test the waters?
Probably something in the realm, especially for what I do, probably something in the realm of like either marketing or accounting.
Yeah.
Just so I could be respected in that field enough to, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes it's like you just want to be, it's like you could be a master marketer, right? But say if you got a degree, then now you're respected in that field enough for people to want to listen to your ideas.
Yeah.
Because it's like you might have all the high ideas independently, you know what I'm saying, without it, but it's going to fall on deaf ears because you don't have no credentials.
Yeah.
So, you know, just having those credentials to back it up would be like, okay, boom. Well, he went to school, so now I'm going to listen to him.
Yeah. It definitely,
he got a degree in it, so now I'm going to listen to what the fuck he's talking about.
For sure, yeah. It almost opens the door to certain rooms that you otherwise wouldn't be able to access. You know what I mean? So I definitely can see how that would be a big thing. Well, if you ever do that, man, I wish you the best of luck, because I think that's a good goal to have. So
yeah, that's right, brother. Yeah. I appreciate that.
For sure, man. And if we flip that, then we say 10 years from now, where do you think you envision yourself musically and in life in general?
Oh man, I talk to my ChatGPT about this all the time, about my dream life. It's crazy. Yeah, man, I see you know, I got this particular house that's going to be built. You know, I see a lot of sync and licensing deals. I see a lot of notoriety from my art. I see my businesses growing. You know, I see my love life flourishing 10 years from now. You know what I'm saying? I might be somewhere in Italy eating fruit, some shit like that. So yeah, yeah, man. I definitely see a bright future for me, man.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Nothing but prosperity at every level.
Yeah, sure. Man. And it's always, you know, it's always like that, man. You know, you see your future in these dreams that you have. You just gotta pay attention, because sometimes you'll try to rush to that end result, but a lot of times God will show you these visions that He'll even show you the steps in between when you have these visions. So you just gotta pay attention, man, and follow that shit. I believe like deja vu is like a sign that you live in life according to God's plan. You know, when you stop, it was a point in time where I was doing all type of little crazy shit, and I stopped having visions because I felt like I was on a wrong path. And I remember I got locked up, and I had this crazy vision. And ever since then, man, I've been back on track. Yeah. And I really believe in like manifestation and the power of positive thinking, and you know what I'm saying, paying attention to those forks in the roads, man, and making the right choices.
Well, yeah, 100%.
And never compromising, man.
Yeah. And anything can be attained too with that alignment, I think. You know, you get aligned and you never know where you could go. The sky's really the limit. So
yeah, I mean, like it's like Nas said on one of his older songs, man, life is what you make it, man. And I'm gonna make it. Yeah. So it's like, it's literally that, bro. It's like, it's whatever you envision for yourself or whatever you dream of, bro, that's what your life will be, bro. And like, you know, it's no coincidence that some people figured it out and some people didn't. It's because some people paying attention and some people aren't.
Yeah, exactly, man. Well, that's definitely a great bar right there. But the last question I have for you is, do you have any final words of wisdom or any other final words of wisdom for us?
Oh, man, just make sure you follow me on Spotify. Follow me on Instagram. I feel like Instagram is probably my strongest little market employee right now as far as my following. but I need to start figuring out how to translate those listeners and people over to that. So if you do respect what I do as an artist and my craft, and make sure that you subscribe to my YouTubes and follow me on Spotify, because I got a lot more shit coming for you. And yeah, that's the move, man. I just need that 6 degrees of separation to kick in.
Yeah, for sure, man.
I need you to tell all your friends. So that's why I appreciate you even getting me on this podcast, so all your listeners could tap in and, you know what I'm saying, if they respect who I am as a human being and what I'm saying on this podcast, and maybe you can go and do your research and check out what it is I do.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And I gotta say, thank you once again for stopping by. And I'm definitely gonna keep supporting, man. I'm excited for the new music, and I know that they will hear this episode and they will go check it out for sure, because that was really the goal. If I believe in someone's music and what they're doing, I definitely want to let people know about it. So thank you again for stopping by, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Sorry about all the clinks and the clanks, man. I'm in my second office, man. It's summertime, so I got to be in the gym, man.
Hey, no worries, man. You got to do what you got to do, for sure. I respect
it.
It's
health and physicality, that shit come with the mind state, too, man. You got to make sure that you stay on your beam as far as working out and keep it healthy.
100%, man, 100%. And if you ever want to stop back anytime, man, I'd love to have you on again. So let me know.
Yeah, for sure, man. As things progress, man, we'll do like a recap.
Thanks everyone for listening today. That was episode 262. We'll be back this time next week. As always, hit that support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send us any funds. And feel free to leave us that 5-star rating if you enjoyed today's episode. But until next week, we'll see you then. Thanks as always for listening.